Look from outside. Lake face. It's as if you've suffered a catastrophic event. Hollowed out tree rising from the clear water. Green as jade. Around the lake are mountains. The space is both quiet and restless. But the eye that dares to swim in this dangerous water, we will soon discover a new world. Tone. This is not the beginning of a fairy tale. It's the real thing about Lake Kandian Sadi. Kazakhstan. In 1911 there was a great earthquake. It's caused a serious landslide in this area. Finally the valley that was created was flooded with rain, actually engulfed the forest. The tree above the water looked sad. But underneath that water, you'll see a forest. Because the water is almost always clear, so you can admire the fascinating landscape. This from the shore. The cold water makes the lake difficult to access. And sometimes it's dangerous. And don't forget the algae. Plants and trees are submerged. It can quickly become. Obstacles are full of risk. My father loved to soak in a hot bath. But the boiling lake that I'm about to introduce you to, it's a real nightmare. This lake is located on the island of Dominica in the Caribbean. And the water in the lake is 8,292 degrees Celsius. And that's just around the edge. Because no one's ever been in the middle of the lake to measure core temperature. It's true that sometimes the temperature drops, but you never know when. The water will boil again. This place is also dangerous because of the gases it emits, such as carbon dioxide. It smells bad, believe me. But mainly because sulfur is trapped in moist air. It seems quiet today, but there's also a danger. It's one of the few erupting lakes on the entire planet. It's similar to volcanoes, and it erupts almost every time, without any warning signs. The last eruption, 9400, caused a lot of serious damage. The chemistry of such lakes works like a can of water with gall that you shake before opening the bottom of the reservoir of dangerous gases. So any kind of noise on the surface of the lake, it can also cause an eruption. Lake Natron in Tanzania is a beautiful place to see. It's a unique light red. But it's definitely not where you want to swim. Although the water is extremely salty, there are many algae living there. Algae is the cause of the lake's strange color. And that's not the most dangerous thing about Lake Natron. Water with a pH so high that it causes erosion. If you use the water of this lake to moisten a dyed cloth, then soon the color will fade. Acid concentration high. It can also cause serious problems for human skin. But these things aren't necessarily bad for some creatures. For natural lake, it's home to more than 2.5 million birds. Little flamingo. This brackish and sour water to support the life of flamingos. So, it's no wonder they like to congregate here. Danger factors of Lake Nicaragua. It doesn't have much to do with chemistry. The organisms that live in it. This lake is located on the border of Costa Rica and Nicaragua. It's the largest freshwater lake in Central America. When you first look at it, you don't think it's dangerous. But because bull sharks live there, I advise you not to go swimming. Sharks are very unpredictable creatures and sometimes formidable. They will eat anything if they need to. At first, scientists believed that bull sharks live only in this lake. But they soon discovered that you've seen this shark in the sea. Caribbean creatures that cause fever horns. It's not just 193 kilometers to come here and adapt to fresh water. That's something that not all fish can do. The Big Green Hole. Belize is a great place for divers. It has beautiful deep blue water. And it's close to the mainland, about 100 kilometers away. The problem is that underneath the still water, it's a series of mixed tunnels, contains a variety of corals and wildlife. These actions hinder back to diving under the Big Blue Hole. What's more, experts have found that further down the hole, the fewer the creatures. At so due to a hydrogen-sulfur grace class, extends over the entire width of the slump. Because there's no oxygen, no creature can survive at the bottom of the hole. Big Green. Lake Laniya is the largest lake in Georgia. It attracts a lot of tourists every year, about 11 million. That's equal to the number of tourists visiting the museum in Paris. But that's famous. But a lot of accidents have happened on this lake. No one knows for sure why. One of the possible explanations lies beneath this mysterious lake. There's a lot of debris at the bottom of the lake, with random objects being thrown down, like boat garden chairs and even fishing lines. All of this makes a joke. Contains obstacles. Underwater full of obstacles, with limited visibility on the lake's surface. It's about determining direction. It's become difficult in this place. Another lake that looks like it's overcolored. LA Grand Prismatic Spring. Located in Yellowstone National Park, stretching to the state of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Swimming here is completely prohibited. In the middle of the lake, it's 87 degrees Celsius, close to boiling temperature, and the outermost ring is about 55 degrees Celsius. That's what makes the color. Because the water is too hot, it makes life impossible to exist, so there's nothing to cover the water. The lack of living things here, it's a brilliant blue color for the water. It's as if that AI painted the lake. On the small island of Cyprus in the Mediterranean, it doesn't rain very often in the summer. That's why some of the water here has dried up, so that in certain areas, calcined salt forms a covering of water. That's the case with Lanaka salt cans. Don't be fooled by the strange sight here. These lands can easily become a trap. It's because people are easily confused about dryness with a thin layer of salt on the water or above the mud. What's more, underneath the crust are salt crystals. It can cause problems for human skin. Sinkholes. It is one of the most dangerous places for swimming activities all over Thailand. That's because it's about 85 meters deep and it's extremely dark. To a certain point, when one dives below, they can go to a place with zero visibility. It is easy to understand why many people are confused. Can't find my way up. The largest lake in Africa and the third largest in the world. It's called Lake Victoria. Not the water of the lake. It is also dangerous for humans, but some areas can quickly cause problems. Why? In part because it has an isolated weather system, and that makes the weather very unstable. Clear sky and big sun, it can storm in a few seconds. You understand? Who wants to meet a storm while swimming? Pushto Lake located in Siberia. So I probably don't need to tell you that. The water here is extremely cold, but if you look at the lake, you won't see anything unusual. Is that really true? Most likely not. And people tend to avoid absolutely no swimming here, even if they can withstand freezing cold water. What makes the lake Pushto become so mysterious and dangerous? No creature seems to want to live here, and scientists still haven't figured out why. They've tried to release many species of fish and plants to see if they can survive, but the results are 7. Because we don't know exactly what makes survival possible. It's become so difficult here, so don't rush to get your swim trousers. It's best to stay away. You don't have to tell me twice. Look at the circle. What's that perfectly shaped ice doing in the middle of the river? Why did it reappear there? To form such a circle, they need very special conditions. So let's see if you can make a similar block of ice at home, or not. Ice circles, also known as ice plates and ice pans. They form in the river, lakes and creeks when ice is concentrated in the center of the water. The fire is moving. The problem is that random eddies. There's a tendency to go in circles. And in the winter, ice crystals often collect in bodies of water, moving so slowly. As a result, they form circular disks of ice flow. Don't make these plates move. It just makes them spin slowly in one place. When a circle of ice rotates, it V into other ice sheets or coasts. And it's pressed down until it's perfectly round. There's another way to form an ice circle. When a body of water is covered in ice, the flow moves underneath. It can break a block of ice and rotate it until it's shaped like a circle. These disks can be very large, up to 50 feet across. There's another amazing ice phenomenon. It's called gray. These are snow masses found at very high altitudes. There are many and close distances. They look like hard blades of snow or ice, long and thin towards the sun. These ice towers that grow in these regions, covered in snow and frozen in the Ondosco Range. At an altitude of over 13,000 feet, some gray columns are only a few inches high, while others reach up to 16 feet. That's about 3 times the height of a human. These occluded structures. It's caused by a process called ascension. It's a little bit like melting, but in this case, the sun turns the snow directly into steam without melting the snow. In other words, ice bypass liquid phase and convert from solid to gas. Curved surface areas heat up and raise faster. Other regions, forming indentations. That's how the penitential column is formed, and that's why they're tilted towards the sun. Now this is called rabbit rock. And is it cute? This phenomenon has other names. Flowers by land by pie. Choose whatever you like. I use it with rabbits. It forms when the air is cold, go to freezing temperatures, but the ground hasn't frozen yet. The sap in the trunk blooms when frozen, and it causes cracks along the trunk. What happens next is the water gets sucked out through these cracks. It freezes when exposed to air. This process creates ultra-thin layers of ice and creates something that's kind of like breaking ice flower wings. The same thing happened to the tree. But in this case, the ice is even thinner, like a hair. These ice formations are extremely delicate. So if you want to see rabbit tape, find it early in the morning in the shade. You can find frost flowers floating on the surface of the lake, or the sea just froze 2009. A group of scientists from the University of Washington sailed near the North Pole. That's when they discovered a vast field. There's this beautiful ice. But the best thing about it is that it melts, flowing some flowers. They noticed the water contains an abnormally large amount of bacteria. But how do this amazing ice is back? The air must be extremely cold, colder than the ocean's surface, and very dry. When the air is so different from the ocean, its dryness will suck some moisture out of the water. The air has a high humidity, but only for a moment. The cold makes the steam heavy. It's no surprise when the air wants to get rid of this extra weight, so every crystal of air turns into ice to create delicate flowers, sometimes as high as inches. The ocean is literally blooming. Ice has many names. The most innovative of these is the ice cap and the ice castle. This ice is formed in the same way as rabbit ice, but the water is sucked out of the surface through the narrow capillaries. All this water freezes into cone-shaped columns. At first glance, these rocks look like vermicelli. It's made of snow. And that's actually an accurate description. Do you know how big they're rolled up into bunches? The snow is the same. The wind blows a patch of snow along the ground. As it rolls, the snow will cling to it more, and the size is increasing. Roller theory is usually cylindrical and hollow inside because the first glass will bubble out as the theory moves. These snow blocks can be diameter up to 2 feet. They occur when the temperature is close to the heat level, and there's a new layer of smooth snow on the ground. And it's not attached to the surface. Don't forget the wind. It has to be strong enough to make the snow roll, but not too strong and break it. These conditions sound pretty picky. That's why snow machines are so rare. But it's not just ice to create things that are amazingly beautiful. Fire can do that too. Look at Pel's hair. These thin threads can look golden and beautiful, but it's dangerous to pick it up. The wind sometimes catches small drops of lava. It's coming out of active volcanoes. These drops of water carried for miles from the vent, and it's stretched into ultra-thin fiberglass fibers. It's also called hair lava. Some fibers can be up to 6 feet long. Have you seen the heat? So it's time to cool down. In the 19th of March 2018, the people of Alabama had to flee to avoid giant chunks of ice from the sky fall down attack. The infamous hail in Alabama has caused millions of dollars in damage. After the hail, this place looks like it's been completely destroyed. Shop windows smashed, car windshields smashed. The billboard is broken and the roof is punctured. But what the researchers are really interested in, it's a hailstone found near the town of Carmen, Alabama. This monster is about the size of a softball. It's horizontal, it's over 5 inches, and it's a new 6th century. Now look at these beautiful bubbles. They're methane air sacs, very flammable and easy to ignite. Trapped in the water, this gas creates illusory landscapes and beautiful models, typical for lakes in the northern latitudes, such as Lake Abraham in Alberta, Canada. These bubbles appear when the carcasses of animals, leaves, and plants fall into the water and are consumed by the bacteria. These bacteria then release methane. But don't fall for the beauty of this phenomenon. When spring comes, melting ice and methane gas bubbles starts to bubble and explode. Very satisfied. But if you happen to light a fire in that area, everything can explode. Let's imagine you're surfing on a perfect wave, and it suddenly freezes. Doesn't sound creepy? Fortunately, such things don't happen in life. Right, wrong. You can see the incredible frozen waves. In Antarctica, these waves happen when the ice is compressed and the pressure is increasing. We'll squeeze the air bubbles out of it. It's a beautiful blue. It's the result of melting and freezing. And one more information for you here. Niagara Falls freezing to a 1/8. The legendary waterfall located on the border between the States and Ontario, Canada, has kept people quiet. The tourists too admire the power of the roaring water. I was surprised to see Niagara Falls frozen. The waterfalls are not frozen because such a feat is impossible for a giant mass of flowing water. Like tiny drops of water coming out of Niagara Falls, as well as fog, has formed a layer of ice on the fast-flowing water. As a result, you can see the falls water and make sure they're frozen. In fact, the water is still flowing, but it's hidden under the ice.